battery issue there. Camera went dead, so managed to pit stop, and so now we're back. So,
but about the time I noticed the battery was going dead because the little light was blinking like crazy.
yeah.
I was thanking John for letting me come along and be a part of this, and I was thanking Kevin Slusherman for letting me be a part of his pulling team. And I also like to thank my dad and my brother for everything they did for my son this year, getting him out on the track and making a couple passes. That's something that, on a side note here, kind of sidetrack off what we've been talking about. We go out here and we do this week in and week out, and we don't sometimes realize how young men and women look at us and been doing this for 25 or 30 years. Because my son pulled for the first time in St. Anthony, Mid-Missouri Trucker Tractor Pullers. And for those of you that are friends with me on Facebook, you saw he did a really good job. Now Anthony's driven, he's 21, he's driven standard transmissions all of his life, whether it was tractors or vehicles. I have an older 95 Chevy at home that's got a lift on it, and it's got a 5-speed in it. And we live in Jefferson City, so that's river country, so we got some hills.
Hills, yep.
So, he can take off from a dead stop on a hill and not, have to use the emergency brake. He can work the pedals just fine. So it's kind of like that. Just don't let off of it to shift gears, But anyway, he had a good pass down St. Anthony, but we get to Holden, and some pullers that came up to him. One that sticks out in my mind is Chad Mears. He came over and talked to Anthony for quite a little bit, and I don't mean to leave anybody out. We talked to him, of course. There was a lot going on there. I was trying to figure out when I was going to jump in with you.
Yep.
Trying to get the truck ready. Of course, nervous because it's Anthony's second pass. And so we get there, and he has a little bit, I won't say trouble, but his takeoff was not as smooth as what it was at St. Anthony. I know we're all human beings. Yep. But it was just, Anthony, he's a really level-headed young man, so of course I didn't get a chance to talk to him much afterwards, because we loaded old Wicked up, and then as soon as I was like, I love you guys, have a safe trip home, I gotta get over and help John.
Yep.
So I've been, so next day I'm talking to Anthony, and I'm like, I said, so what was the deal last night? I said, you seemed so calm and St. Anthony, and then you were like a little more rattled on your second pass. He goes, Dad, he goes, all these guys that I've been watching my whole life pulling these trucks, he said they were all telling me how glad they was that I was there.
Yep.
And they were all very supportive. And he said, I was just like, he goes, I think I was more nervous about showing them that I could do this again.
Yeah.
And that I can hang with the guys that I've had respect for, he's literally been watching these guys pull trucks, a lot of them, for 21 years.
Yeah. Yep.
So, he just wanted to live up to the hype, I guess, so to speak. And he was worried that he wasn't going to do that. I said, you don't have to worry about that. They're going to respect you, and they're glad they're there. So,
yeah.
But anyway, so just my point with that is
that truck very well. I wasn't at St. Anthony, but I was there at Holden. And although I've never driven a pulling truck, I mean, I've seen a lot of people do it, I guess you'd say. But Anthony, that was a very, very veteran move, in my opinion. Just for him to have the thought process to, okay, this thing, it doesn't feel right, clutch it, let's try this again. Because I've watched a lot of people that just, go ahead and lay into it, and they'll rip a drive line out or something unfortunate, or end up bouncing down in there, going about 200 feet and shutting it down, but just to have that feel and that piece of, in his head, that's some of that obviously is just him being around it for so long. He knew what he was doing, what he needed to do, but a lot of it is that button to seat. He's feeling it, and he knows what it needs to feel like. And
well, and to your point on that, I was surprised, pardon me, because I did ask him that. I'm like, why did you clutch it? And he said, well, he goes, number one, he goes, I got in a hurry, and he said, I didn't quite bring the RPMs up high enough, and he said, when I let out on the clutch, he said, I put it to the floor, and he said, it didn't pick up any RPMs for a few feet. He said, it never broke the tires loose to let the motor wake up, and he said, I knew it wasn't going to come back, so he said, I just clutched it, and said, well, let's try this again, and yeah, I mean, I was, as being a dad, I'm like you, I was kind of tickled.
Yeah, for him to even be thinking that way, his second time on the track, and
yeah, I mean, he literally, he had it, that's like at St. Anthony, people are like, oh, I guess he drove it around at the shop and stuff like that, and I'm like, no, we literally backed that truck off the trailer and put fuel in it, and he backed it up about 40, this was at St. Anthony, backed it up about 40 feet, and I was standing at the door, and I wanted, of course, guys that drive pulling trucks, and I'm assuming this is the way it works on tractors, is, it isn't like a normal vehicle where you just let out the clutch. The clutch is actually pushing against your foot, saying it's time to go.
Yeah.
You have to hold it down to sit there and let the engine go.
That's got to be a very unique feeling,
Yeah, and that, and most, these newer vehicles, their RPM tolerances are a lot better, but like on my 95, if you're turning 3,000 RPMs, you're getting into the red on an old 350.
Yep.
And for him to have a wherewithal to be able to sit there and wind that engine up to over 7,000 RPMs before he ever starts picking his foot
very
up.
unnatural thing to do to normal people.
Yeah. So I was, of course, like I said, though, he's been around it literally all of his life.
Yep.
And, I don't know if people want to know this, but something I thought was extremely interesting. Now, Anthony's been around vehicles all of his life. He used to work at a car dealership for a couple of years. But he had never really driven a carbureted engine except for a lawnmower. So when we were at St. Anthony, he was pulling out on the track and kind of loping it a little bit too much, and it died, and it got flooded is what it did. So I was like, and I knew what happened, and I wasn't mad. I just walked over and opened the door, and I was like, it just started. We cranked it a little bit, and he's like, Dad, it won't start. And I'm like, it's flooded. And he looked at me, he was kind of like, he kind of knew what that meant, but didn't know what it meant.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, just hold the accelerator all the way on the floor, wide open. And he's like, well, I don't want to rev the engine through the roof. And I said, well, when it starts up, just take your foot off the gas. I said, it'll just idle right back down.
Yeah.
And you don't think about that with these younger generations.
Yeah.
Literally everything they drive is fuel injected.
Yep.
Some mechanism that way, And so we had a little learning curve with that the next morning, explaining that, why, he knew why, he understood why it happened, and he didn't know exactly how to remedy the situation.
Yeah.
So that's kind of an interesting tidbit that you don't think about.
Sure. Yeah, kind of like, not really unlike when we were talking earlier about film cameras and just different time, different technology, which, a lot of these trucks they're state of the art, but they're still using old school technology.
Right. Yeah, and it's just, it's like I said, those are the fun things, is passing it down, 10 years, 20 years, like I said, we get the truck back out, hopefully we can get Anthony behind the wheel, 1 or 2 times a year or something. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, like I said earlier, that's all up in the air, but my Facebook post, what I said on there is there's no better feeling than watching your child succeed at something he's wanted to do his whole life.
Yeah.
And just basically hitting a home run. You know, I was kind of aggravated. I pulled that truck probably a dozen times, and the best I've got is like 4. And he gets second place.
Yeah.
And I mean, he had some, there weren't a lot of trucks there. There was only 7, but there was some pretty heavy hitters
Sure.
there, you know. And Brett Powell of Bullet for Christ edged him out there by a few feet.
Yep.
You know, he got right in there. And like I said, it wasn't a huge class, but there were no slouches that were
Sure.
you know, and he gets in there and competes with some of the best of the best here in Missouri. Right off the bat, I was, you know, some say that's beginner's luck, and I'm sure a little bit of that plays into it.
Maybe, but I mean, it could also be he just paid a lot of attention through the years.
And I like to think that that's what it is.
You know what I mean?
And you know, like I said, that was my highlight of this 2024 season. Probably the most disheartening thing, I guess I would say, I saw this year is when Ross Harden's engine let go there when we had the flame out of the left bank, and I'm assuming that was probably a valve that got taken out. And that's an assumption. I haven't talked to the
Sure.
Hardens or anything like that. And no disparaging against their engine person. I'm just assuming that that's so. You know, for me, when they leave the line, all I see is the back of the sled after about 200 foot. You know, and I do a lot of times I'll watch the sled go down the track, and you know, I saw the inside of Brandon's cab lining up, and I'm like, oh my God, that's not good.
Yeah.
And of course, I didn't see the footage till you got the video.
Sure. Yeah.
But just you know, that was just my, you know, like I said, we want to win when we get out there. We all want to beat everybody. You know, when stuff like that happens, you know, it just makes you sick to your stomach.
It really does, you know, because for a lot of those guys and girls, that's no matter what time of year it happens, that's the end of their year.
Yeah.
You know, they just don't have the time or the resources to, you know, put something back together for the rest of the year, and you hate to see that, because you want to see everybody every week. You want to see them out there pounding up and down the track, you know, and competing, and you know, when something like that happens, not only is it a hit on their pocketbook, it's a hit on them personally. You know, that's what they want to be out there doing.
And I've got to know Ross a little bit over the summer here, and his, you know, and Dwayne also. You know, they've come up and been very cordial to me. And,
Yep.
And so I got to know them a little bit, and you know, so you know, I hate to see it happen to anybody, but somebody that's kind of got to be a new bowling friend, as I call them. You know, it's kind of disheartening. But,
Yep.
You know, it happens the best of us. I mean, Andy in 2008, I believe it was, in 2008 or 2007, he had a similar thing happen. My brother did. He broke an exhaust valve off, and the piston shoved it back up in the head. And so, you know, thank God, you know, as hard as we are on these engines, kudos to all the engines out there.
Good Lord, the RPMs that they're turning, especially with the pro stock engine, and you know, even with the tractor engines, you know, the 4.1s and the 5.0s, and
holy crap.
good Lord, they're far and beyond what they were 20 years ago. But just the fact that they hold together once, let alone 50 times or whatever, you know, is a testament.
I was talking to Skylar Lieber that pulls the Legal Limits Dodge, and you know, just he didn't divulge any secrets, but he was just talking about the engine RPMs and the amount of torque they're getting out of those Cummins, you know, and it's just, you know, whenever I was a kid, you know, if you watch this whole video, you know, you talk about earlier back in the 80s, if you were turning 6,000 RPM with the big block, you were doing something.
Yeah.
I mean, you had people sitting there squinting and kind of going,
yeah, especially, you know, a lot of people tried to get away with stock parts.
Yeah.
I didn't mind for a little bit, but
you know, but nowadays, if you're not turning over 9,000, you know, through the middle, you know, if you're not, you got to leave over 7, closer to 8. You know, that's a discussion that Kevin and I have a lot, and I'm a little more on the aggressive side with the RPMs than Kevin is, but we talked that out and kind of found the middle ground there. How, you know, like I said, at the end of the day, it's Kevin's truck. He can drive it however the heck he wants. So if you ask my opinion, you know, and
something happened with, you know. And
Oh yeah.
it's just how it is, you know, and as much as you hate to see it, you just, you know, I guess you just take it and learn from it.
I mean, that's like the Crooked Creek mine that in Russellville this year. I mean, they had to detonate. I mean, that thing exploded.
Yeah.
And I mean, and like I said, that's a tractor that I don't, you know, I watch it pull. It's a good looking piece of machinery and what have you. But I mean, it made me sick, and I don't have nothing to do with the tractor other than watch it. But I was
Sure.
like, oh my God.
Yeah.
That was one of the nights I tried filming, and
Yeah.
you know, and I'm standing down there on the starting line, and he's just hauling tail down that track, and about, I think it was about 250 foot. That turbocharger just like, no, you
Yeah.
know, and the amount of money, you know, I'm not going to guess here, but then, you know, if the numbers they kick around on the turbochargers is what they're paying for them,
Yeah.
you know, no matter what brand they are, oh my goodness, when they go up.
Yeah, they ain't cheap, you know.
It's, you know, and like I say, you know, it takes us all to do it. And but, you know, do you have any highlights that stick out in your mind from this year? I mean, we had a lot of first time pullers.
That's really, I mean, I've been trying to think of, you know, just one or two or something that's really hard to just pick out, but honestly, really the first time pullers, I love that, especially doing what we do with the video thing, because, you know, a lot of times mom and dad are nervous for their, you know, if it's a kid or whoever the family members are,
Oh, yeah.
nervous for their family member. They might be filming with their phone, and they might not be. They might forget to hit record button, you know, or something. I had a couple people do that. But I love the first times, you know, whether it goes good or bad, you'll never forget it. You know, it's just, it's one of those things, you only get it once. And I always love capturing those first time pullers. You know, we've had several in Andy. I wasn't there for St. Anthony, but I was there for Holden. That was pretty cool, you know, but we just had several this year, and some of them, you know, I don't even realize it was their first time until after the fact.
Right, and that's something I want to bring up. I mean, this is your channel, but
That's good.
But you know, if I'm there and I'm on the starting line and you're part of a crew and it's a first time puller coming out, just walk over and tell me, because we want to. That's like he just said. That's one of our favorite things to
Yep.
do is you know, I want to get a good roll cage shot. You know, them getting ready to look in their eyes
Yep.
and you know, really, you know, because on the starting line I try to mix it up. You know, some nights I'm right to roll gauge, sometimes I stand back.
Yep.
You know, and that's to get a little different angles on stuff. But if it's a first timer, I kind of want to be right in the grill, so to speak.
Yeah.
You know, and I know they're nervous, but like John said, you know, they can either maybe contact John. I know that with Anthony, the footage he got of Anthony, I'm like calling, you know, texting him, going, you know, of course I got a little
pull.
yeah, I got a little pull over, you know. You know, before you know, whenever we were packing up in the rain, I'm like, you know, whenever you get a chance, cut that foot, because we had a GoPro in the cab. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Yep. Forgot about that.
We might use that footage someday in another video. But and I'm like, can you give me all the, you know, basically as soon as you get out of bed, I want, you know, so
Yeah.
you know, and